Hey guys, it's Graham. What's cracking? This is my review of the crowdfunded comic Battle Brick Road, which I believe it launched 2 years ago, and it fully funded. It hit its goal and then some. I want to say the entire thing came out to be about $100,000, just under it in the end. And there are some extra bells and whistles, some perks that come along with that, but I got a rather standard version. I've backed a couple of crowdfunded comics at this point, and comics aren't something that I review a whole ton on this channel, but I think I just might. Mainstream comics have gotten kind of bad in the last couple of years. The art's gotten worse, the stories have gotten terrible, and the characters just suck. But for the industrious types out there, that has created a new market for these independent creator-owned comics, funded largely through Indiegogo and Kickstarter, and people who want good comics and just can't find them the way that they used to through the North American direct market. And so a lot of these other creators and writers and artists have stepped up and made these successful campaigns. I've got one or two comics on my shelf by Ethan Van Sciver. I've got one by Richard Meyer, the first in his Jawbreakers campaign. The price points for these are a little bit higher than they would be for a regular comic. If you were just to go in and buy a single issue of a comic at a store, it could be anywhere from like $2 to $5 on a regular Tuesday. If you were buying a nice trade paperback graphic novel, like here's all the issues in one type thing, it could go easily up to $20. Let me grab something off my shelf, for example. Here's volume 1 of Jim Zubkovich's Skull Kickers, and it actually lists this one as $9.99 USD, which is a heck of a deal considering how good the art is and how heavy the paper is and the quality of the printing and all that stuff. That's really, really good. By comparison, let me pull up a DC comic, because that's likely to have a higher entry point. This one right here. Okay, so $12.99 for Public Enemies, which it's Batman and Superman versus basically everybody. This is a really popular, really common one. Just to give you an idea of what a full issue like that could cost. And these are price points from 10 or 15 years ago. Nowadays, with inflation and the cost of materials going up, it could be more. So when you do a crowdfunded comic, though, something like this, I think with shipping, I ended up giving them $35. But, with crowdfunded stuff, the bigger that it gets, the more they'll add, other perks in. They'll have stretch goals like, okay, if we hit this amount, then we'll throw in an extra set of trading cards or a patch or something. And that's kind of what happened here. They gave me this nice embroidered patch. Not sure what I'll put it on. I'm sure I'll figure it out eventually. I've got a good heavy rucksack that I use for work. It's got a Velcro square on it for patches like that, but I haven't sewn anything onto it. These right here are some very cool cards. I pulled them out and looked at them before, just to give you some smaller pieces of the artwork from the book that you can have. This is a Kenneth Rocafort variant cover. Let me see if I can get the camera to zoom in on that. Right there. There we go. You could get this cover on the book if you paid extra for it. Again, I just kind of did the basic entry-level price, but I think this is going to be the version of the Scarecrow and the Tin Man from this story. This is Thea, aka the Dorothy character. This one I'm not sure who, probably the Wicked Witch, right? And then one of the flying monkeys. Obviously, it was this art of the flying gorillas that caught my attention. This is a very Graham Bradley type concept, and I really, really loved the art style here. They also added this little reflective foil sticker. I think this is the Battle Brick Road version of Toto. He's a drone instead of a dog. But anyway, I love concept stories like this. It's obviously based on an existing property. It's based on Frank L. Baum's Wizard of Oz. And so, they didn't come up with the concept entirely on their own, but they're riffing on it in a way that is visually very exciting. Oh, also, hey, I got the bookmark. There's no place like home. Good, heavy, quality material. Art goes all the way to the edges. It's rounded at the corners. It's little details like that I look for in products like this. This foreword that Zeb Hatfield puts in he mentions that he was born and raised as a Kansas boy, and the Wizard of Oz story always resonated with him because it was set in Kansas. That got me thinking about a listicle that I saw online several years ago when they were breaking down the many, many numerous Avengers characters, not just the ones that have made it into the movies since 2008, but the ones that are in all the comics, and how basically you could assign one to every state. Canonically, they're not all from every state, but you've got several of them that are from New York, a bunch from California, but there are other states where it's like, yeah, this guy's from here. Like, hey, if you're from Missouri, who's the Missouri superhero? Star-Lord is from Missouri. Okay, that's cool. Well, if you're a creative type, like Eric Weathers and like Hatfield here, you try to look for things that are from the place you're from, and say, hey, cool, here's this creative thing that's from Kansas, like I am. Now, me, I'm a Henderson boy. I'm from the Vegas Valley, and pretty much all of our culture in the popular consciousness revolves around the Strip and gambling, and if you're over a certain age, the Las Vegas mob. But we don't have necessarily pop culture or literary characters that are from the Vegas area. I'm going to be the one to fix that. I've got a character on deck, but I'll talk more about that at a separate time. The thing is, this idea of taking a story that's from where you're from and riffing on it and creating your own version of it, I think it's cool, and I think it can work, and any concept done well can make a good story. Now, granted, I haven't read this one yet, so caveat on that, but at least looking at the production quality and the conceptual quality and the artwork and everything, I mean, this cover right here is what they had ready when they did the initial crowdfunding launch a couple of years ago, and that pulled me in. There's Dorothy, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that drone is Toto. And even just skimming through the artwork yesterday, I was like, they've got good angles, good effects, perspective, which is one of the hardest things to nail right. The flying monkeys look epic. I'm all about that. Plenty of action. So, it's passing the spot test on the visuals. This is kind of the bonus section of the comic, I guess. You can tell it's, there's a big change in the art style, and they're letting somebody else come in and play in their sandbox. There's a lot of artists that do that. I'll have to do a series review of those Skull Kickers comics I just shared with you, because those are excellent. I'm due to reread those. But Zubkovich and his crew did the same thing at the end of theirs. They, at the end of every issue, there's 6 of them. They had different artists come in and do a little short story set in the same world. So anyway, to sum it all up, I like that idea of contributing to the story legacy of the place where you're from. And I definitely like this idea of taking something that's out there, but riffing on it well. They don't have to go in and change or erase or destroy anything that Frank L. Baum built. They're just saying, okay, well, let's take the same concept. It's in public domain now, so we can play with it, and let's do a good job. And on the aesthetic side of things, and on the fulfillment side of things, these guys definitely have. So stay tuned to the channel. Once I read this book, I'll do a community post just kind of breaking down the story of it and my thoughts. But this kind of stuff is out there for you guys to find, especially on Indiegogo. Comics creators do a lot more on Indiegogo. A lot of it has to do with the fact that the cost of production is higher for this stuff. And from what I understand, I've only run one crowdfunding campaign, and that was on Kickstarter 5 years ago. And they took, I think, about 11% of the gross from that. From what I understand, Indiegogo doesn't take as much. And you can kind of customize the campaign. You can run it for different lengths and things like that. So it's more amenable to this particular format. It's like you'll see more novels on Kickstarter. You'll see more comics on Indiegogo. But the point is, this stuff is out there. Yeah, you got to pay a little bit of a premium to end up adding it to your collection, because you're not just buying a ready-made product off of the shelf. You're supporting somebody in the making of the product. And it's very satisfying to see that they made it well. Especially, when it gets to your doorstep intact and there's all these extra goodies attached to it. So that's it for now. If you want to find more reviews of excellent sci-fi, horror, fantasy, and fiction, check out upstreamreviews.com. That's where several independent authors like Rob Cruzy, Declan Finn, and more get together and recommend basically a new book every day, or also comment on the science fiction genre, the speculative fiction genre in literature in general. I myself am also a contributor there. In the meantime, drive safe. See you guys out there.